All right, we got another one to get into, and I'm sorry that I have to give yet another content warning, because this one's not going to be super fun for most of you. This was reported on in July, like literally 3 days ago. A video that shows a trans man getting, well, assaulted by a cop. We're going to get into that here in just a second. Let's do the fan art section thing, so there's a little bit of brevity before we get into things, and then we'll go from there. But this one is from Specious Demina, shot I made in Second Life, Time Raccoon watching the stream. What if Time Raccoon became infectious like a zombie plague? I'm not ready for the inflection of Time Raccoon art that's going to come in from the subathon. But the next one we have here is from Stoff. Hol Chan decided to bring Suris to a livable, for a small mortal slime cat at least, section of the void. While they were there, they stopped by to say hi to a certain eldritch jellyfish while they were working. Well, I think we have proof now that Stoff is, in fact, small. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, you know what to do. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this thing. So, when the beginning of your article says, "I can't die like this," I feel like that flavors the entire article. But let's go ahead and see here. Emmett Brock thought he was dying as his mind raced. This isn't supposed to happen to me. This doesn't happen this way, and I can't die like this. He tasted blood inside his mouth, he felt the fists land on his head, and he heard the shouts of the sheriff's deputy on top of him, pressing him into the pavement of the 7-Eleven parking lot. Again, I reiterate my statement that if a police officer is assaulting you, legally you should be allowed to defend yourself. The fact that you are not is a crime in and of itself. 3 minutes later, the 23-year-old teacher sat in the back of a Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department cruiser, not even knowing why the deputy had stopped him. Brock was sent to the Norwalk Station lockup and booked for 3 felonies. When he told the staff he's a transgender man, he said they asked to see his genitals before deciding which holding cell to send him to. That's not invasive at all. That's not weird at all. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine? You're going into the police station, and they're just like, take off your pants. We need to see whether or not you've got a dick. Why does that matter? I'm sorry. If somebody wants to commit sexual assault, it doesn't matter if they have a fucking dick. It doesn't. Dick, vagoo, it doesn't matter. Sexual assault can happen from anyone to anyone, and that likelihood cannot be determined by looking in someone's pants. This was in February. Brock is now jobless and still facing criminal charges, all stemming from a traffic stop the deputy said was based on an air freshener that he spotted hanging from Brock's rearview mirror. An air freshener! What? What? An air freshener. Why? How is that your litmus test? How is that what you made this determining? You ruined somebody's entire life over an air freshener. Go contemplate your life and quit your job. The Sheriff's Department has been under intense scrutiny. Yeah, gee, I wonder why. In recent weeks for 2 other use of force incidents caught on camera, including one in which a deputy punched a woman in the face while trying to take her child. In that case, Sheriff Robert Luna condemned the incident as completely unacceptable and relieved the deputy of duty. The FBI is now investigating. Yeah, and you know what's probably going to happen? They're going to get a job at another police department. Luna ran on promises of reform and has implemented several changes in the department since taking office in December. He restored the ability of oversight officials to access sheriff's databases, turning over controversial investigations to outside agencies, ordered his deputies to cooperate with investigations, and created an office to eradicate deputy gangs. Citing the possibility of litigation, the department declined to comment specifically on February 10th's incident involving Brock, issuing a statement that said, "We take every use of force seriously, and we do investigate." So I have a question. Does the police force in this situation ever just investigate, or do they ever take time to fix the problem? When you've literally ruined somebody's life, do you take time to offer restitution? Does the police department have some way of doing that outside of getting sued? Probably not. To Brock's lawyer, Thomas Beck, that underscores how far the sheriff department has to go when it comes to meaningfully holding deputies accountable. They have not changed. In fact, they've become more stiffened against criticism. The system that they have in place that they tell the public guarantees accountability is a farce. Before his run-in with the deputy, Brock was already having a miserable day. He said he left his high school teaching job early after a coworker had harassed him for being transgender. It wasn't the first time, and he had gotten fed up. A few blocks from the school, Brock spotted a deputy who appeared to be having a heated conversation with a woman on the side of the road. As he drove by, Brock threw up his middle finger. He didn't even think the deputy would see it. A few seconds later, he spotted a patrol cruiser following close behind him. Ah, I forgot that flipping off cops was apparently illegal. Maybe if we all flip off cops, they won't have anything to do, because obviously they have to immediately stop what they're doing and respond to being flipped off. It's very important that they do this. If they don't do it, how will they ever be doing their jobs correctly? Oh wait, they don't have to actually respond to it. They can just accept the fact that they've taken in a job that has a fuck ton of stigma. Oh, I'm sorry. Does that argument only work when we're talking about trans people? When we're talking about the stigma that they have to deal with? Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't aware your standards were doubled. A few seconds later, he spotted a patrol cruiser following close behind him. It made Brock uneasy. He turned down one side of a street and then another, trying to figure out whether the cruiser was following him or just going the same direction. The deputy didn't turn on his lights or a siren, but did make every single turn that Brock did. Brock then called 911, saying, "I'm being followed by a police car." He said in a recording that was shared with the Times. He told the dispatcher that the car was copying his turns but not pulling him over. He said he wanted to make sure it was a real police car and that he wasn't being stalked. The two kept talking, and eventually the dispatcher said, "What is it that you want us to do? If he hasn't pulled you over, he hasn't pulled you over." If you're being stalked by a police officer, I want you to call him the fuck off. That's what I want you to do. 2 minutes into the call, Brock cursed and hung up. He kept driving, pulling up outside the 7-Eleven on Mills Avenue, and planning to buy a Coke before heading to a therapy appointment. The cruiser pulled in behind him, and the store's surveillance camera captured what followed. The deputy's body-worn camera captured the sound. As Brock stepped out of the car, Deputy Joseph Benza approached and told him, "I just stopped you," offering no explanation why. Except he didn't. He really didn't. Confused, Brock replied, "No, you didn't." Deputy said, "Yes, I did." And then he grabbed Brock's arm and forced him to the ground. Still unsure what he'd done, Brock said he began to scream. "What are you doing? What the fuck is happening?" For the next 3 minutes, Brock struggled and screamed as the deputy held him down and punched his head. Man, YouTube's gonna ban me if I keep on covering stuff like this, because the actual words I want to say, the things that I think should happen to somebody who's abusing power like that, would get me banned on just about every platform that I speak on. But you can fill in the blanks on that, right? Brock said, "You're going to kill me. You're going to fucking kill me. Help, help, help. I'm not resisting." His mind raced, turning over the thoughts of all the things he had never got to do in his life. Finish grad school, be a father, become a professor. At one point, the deputy ordered him to put his arms behind his back. But his arms were already pinned under his chest, you know, where the officer put them. Even when I did get them out the way he wanted, he continued to punch me. He just kept saying, "Stop resisting, stop resisting." I didn't understand why he was shouting that because I wasn't resisting. According to the sheriff's department, 2 witnesses saw Brock exit his car and struggle with the deputy. One of those witnesses claimed Brock punched the deputy, which camera footage does not show. And the deputy doesn't allege. Wow, you fucking piece of shit. Do not side with the cops. I'm sorry. According to the sheriff's department, 2 witnesses saw Brock exit his car. That was the one we just got. After Brock was in handcuffs, the deputy put him into the backseat of a cruiser. At that point, Brock said he was trying to make sense of what had happened and why he was on the deputy's radar in the first place. It was only later that he learned from paperwork he was given. The deputy said he had spotted an air freshener hanging from a rear view mirror, supposedly obstructing his view of the road from Brock's black Honda Civic. If Benza saw Brock flip him off, he made no mention of it in his report. According to the deputy's version of events, the force was justified. You have a very dangerous air freshener. Allow me to kill you slowly. That's what I'm getting from here. There was an obstruction in a window, and so you decided that you needed to beat a person. Benza, on the 11-page incident report, said it appeared he was about to walk away from his car and myself. Oh no! Why would you not want to be here with me? Why would you not want to be here near me, the officer that you just flipped off? His rejection of my traffic detention and his apparent intent to distance himself from his vehicle further raised safety concerns. He was walking away from me, so I felt the need to defend myself. Oh, no! Wow, what a fucking piece of shit. I'm sorry, no. If somebody's walking away from you and that triggers your alarm bells that they're going to harm you, no, I can't take anything you're saying seriously anymore. I can't. He was leaving, and so I felt the need to assault him. That officer deserves a throat punch. I don't know from who. His rejection of my traffic detention and his apparent intent to distance himself from the vehicle further raised safety concerns. I know from my training and experience that those who possess contraband items inside vehicles commonly attempt to disassociate themselves from their vehicles when law enforcement is present. Okay, I don't give a shit what contraband is in his vehicle. If somebody's walking away from you, they're not being more threatening to you. Deciding Brock was at the onset of assaulting me, Benza said he tackled him to the ground. He's at the onset of assaulting you while walking away. Adding that Brock continually tried to bite me. Yeah, because you were assaulting him. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? Benza then punched him approximately 8 times in rapid succession. He then added, my punches had their intended effect. Okay. He made no mention of Brock's cries for help, or that he repeatedly told the deputy that he couldn't breathe and wasn't resisting. Instead, Benza's report noted that Brock attempted to rip my skin from my hand. Yeah, you don't deserve the skin on your hand at this point, my guy. He said it could result in permanent disfigurement. Yeah, gee, I wonder if maybe punching somebody in the head repeatedly could also result in permanent disfigurement. Or have we forgotten that blunt force trauma to the head is bad? A paramedic's report from the scene didn't mention any bite marks. Oh, wow, an officer lied? Who would have thought? And when Benza went to the hospital later, the emergency room reported that he told them the bite hadn't broken any skin and there was no bleeding. A physician's assistant report noted there were no bite marks at this time. Ah, yes, I know how softly I bite people when I'm thinking that I'm going to die. Or the bites didn't happen. Medical records do show Benza fractured his right hand in a punching injury. Good. You deserved every other bone, too. In interviews with the Times, Brock denied biting the deputy, and his lawyer said that it would have been nearly impossible. Yeah, his face was in the dirt. Also, hello, Poppy. Can I get a shout-out for Poppy real quick? Said there is no moment that Emmett is not shouting or screaming, and you can't talk with your teeth when your teeth are clamped on someone's hand. Benza did not respond to a request for comment. Yeah, I wouldn't either. If I were this police officer, I would hide. I would hide immediately. Completely. To Ed Obayashi, a former Northern California sheriff's deputy who is a national use of force expert, the incident raised red flags. I just don't see why this escalated as quickly as it did, he told the Times after reviewing the 7-Eleven footage. It just goes from 0 to 100 immediately, and there's no explanation. Wow, almost as if the officer was lying. What a weird thing. Just... Also, I'll go ahead and do the shout-out myself. After the violence began, Obayashi said, the apparent lack of attempt to de-escalate the situation, especially once Brock started to show signs of serious distress, was another point of concern. So the spark notes, Poppy, for this are, there was a 23-year-old trans man who left his teaching job one day early because of getting harassed at the job for being trans, flipped off a police officer, and the police officer, he was driving, by the way. Whether or not the police officer saw it, he didn't note in his 11-page report, and the only person who even noted the flipping off happened was the victim. Brock, the victim, then got followed by the police officer. Police officer didn't use sirens or lights or anything, and followed him block to block to block until he went to a 7-Eleven to try to park. And at that point, the officer approached him. Brock tried to walk away. The officer tackled him to the ground and began beating him just about to death. And from where we are right now, other use of force experts who are ex-cops reviewing the footage found that the officer literally took things from 0 to 100 immediately after the stop. There's no audio indication that a threat was happening. There's no warning that a threat was happening. And even in the officer's report, he says that Brock was walking away from me, and that signaled my alarm bells. So I tackled him in self-defense. He then claimed that the guy tried to bite him while on the ground, despite the fact that his head was in the ground and unable to do any biting, and despite the fact that a medical team literally said in noted documentation that there were no signs of any bite marks of any kind, no matter how shallow. There was literally, the officer tried to pull a... this is self-defense, despite there being no self-defense. There's always a wind chanter. Think about 200 bits. There's always a point. There's always a problem when you have an individual telling you, an officer, that he can't breathe. Obayashi said, adding he didn't see or hear any indication that Brock threatened the deputy. There's a minor traffic offense at most, and we're talking about an air freshener. Oh, yeah, no. The reason the officer cited in his case, by the way, was an air freshener. He said there was an air freshener that might have been obscuring his vision in the car, so the officer had to beat the shit out of him because of an air freshener. I've noted already that I can't articulate exactly what I want to happen to people who act like this, because Twitch TOS and YouTube TOS prevents me from doing so safely. Given Brock's assertion that he flipped off the deputy, Obayashi suggested the minor traffic infraction might have been a pretext to pull Brock over. He added this very well could be contempt of cop, referencing a term in some law enforcement used to describe situations where officers respond with violence when they perceive someone's behavior is disrespectful. In California, he added it can be grounds for deputies and police officers to lose their state peace officer certification. In LA, such behavior could also violate the department policy banning retaliatory force. Also, Winchanter has the video here, right? Allow ads. God. Turn off for this site. Again, fair warning, we are going over very, very bad footage. Oh, it's an Airheads commercial. Well, I guess we have an Airheads commercial first. That's, you know, that's cool. We'll just skip that for a second. Alpha says, I see you're using Opera GX. Of course. Good browser. All right. Around noon, LA Sheriff's Department began following Brock as he drove home from New York. Brock pulled over a 7-Eleven. The deputy parked behind him.
Come here. I just stopped you. No, you didn't. Yeah, I did. Get your hands off of me.
The fuck? What? Wait, what? Hold on. Hold the fuck on. Okay, no.
I just stopped you. No, you didn't. Yeah.
Okay, so he goes, I just stopped you. No, you didn't. That's what we read in the article.
I did. Get your hands off of me.
He says, please take your hands off of me. He tries to walk away. The fuck? That could have cracked his skull open.
What the f is happening? What the f are you doing? Get the f off me! Get the f off! You're gonna kill me! Oh my god!
He immediately grappled him. Yeah. And then he just keeps punching him in the head. Why is he punching him in the head?
Stop! Stop! I'm not fine! Stop! You're gonna kill me! You're gonna kill me! Help! Help! I'm not resisting! Okay, I can't! You have my hands! Move your arms behind your back! You have my hands! Move your arms behind your back!
How is he supposed to move his arms behind his back? You're literally crushing his back. The fuck? How? How are you supposed to do any of that?
How? You have me cut? Bro, what the? Bro, help! I'm trying to get my hands behind my back, dude. I'm not resisting. Stop!
I don't mean I'm gonna lurk and lift, but this guy's a fucking monster. Yeah? After the deputy said that Brock was about to punch him, nowhere in the video did you see that. Nowhere in the video was that shown. Brock was charged with 3 felonies. You know, like trying to walk away. Jesus Christ. Deputies took Brock to Coast Plaza Hospital, where he was treated for scrapes, bruises, and a concussion, of course. Once he was medically cleared, deputies took him to the station for booking. There, staff took his mugshot and fingerprints. They took his shoes and directed him to take off any jewelry. He struggled to pull his rings off over swollen knuckles. By that point, he said the pain was beginning to set in. My head was just exploding, and I felt like I got hit by a truck. It wasn't long before authorities asked Brock for a statement, during which he explained he's transgender, and the jailer just goes, "So you're a girl?" Okay, so, YouTube TOS. Then the man asked whether he had a penis, and Brock said that he did. He explained what surgeries existed and that he had been on hormones for years. And then one jailer asked for proof. Man, if that entire police station just got egged, wouldn't that be so weird? After one jailer asked for proof, Brock said he spent a few awkward minutes in the bathroom showing her his genitalia and explaining the effects of testosterone. Yeah, that's just sexual assault. That's just assault. I'm sorry. He was then placed in a woman's holding cell. He literally showed you he had a dick, and you still threw him in a woman's holding cell. The fuck? It was after dark when one of the jailers told him his family and his girlfriend had pulled together enough money for bail. He was facing 3 penalties: mayhem, resisting arrest, and obstruction, plus misdemeanor failure to... So, we're just going to go ahead and say that at least all of these are made the fuck up. 4 days later, he lost his job after state authorities notified the school of his pending trial. So the authorities literally ruined his life. They literally ruined his life. Said, how can resisting arrest be a crime? Said, where was this? What state? Kansas? I think this was Kansas. When the incident went through the department's normal force review process, officers officials cleared Benza of wrongdoing. One sergeant wrote that Brock was assaultive with threats of serious Bodily injury. Another sergeant listed as the watch commander concurred, saying the incident was within policy and the force used was objectively reasonable. And there needs to be some mayhem in Kansas. The sergeant also checked no on the paperwork next to the question. Could officer safety, tactical communication, or de-escalation techniques have been improved? And he just goes, no, they could not have been improved. The station captain agreed with the two sergeants below him. Only once the matter went up to the division commander did the report note any room for improvement. The situation was very dynamic and evolving, which required a split-second decision to be made by Deputy Benza, since it appeared suspect Brock was trying to avoid being contacted. Gee, I wonder why! Then he says officer safety is paramount. Said this happened in Los Angeles County, California. Oh, I was thinking about the other incident. Because there's not too many of those already. Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, this was LA. This was LA. Let's see, where were we here? But since Benza's vehicle had Brock's blocked in, hold on. Costello said he could have taken this time to call for backup while keeping tabs on the situation before confronting Brock. Overall, he wrote, based on Deputy Benza's articulation that suspect was biting his right hand, the punches appear to be justified. In March, Brock's lawyer asked department officials to criminally investigate Benza. After the second letter, he received a reply assuring that it would happen in a timely manner. That month, Brock had his first court appearance. Though he'd been booked on 3 felony and a misdemeanor charge, prosecutors ultimately decided to move forward with 2 misdemeanor charges, resisting arrest and battery of an officer. A judge reduced his bail from $100,000. Why was the bail $100,000? You made up the fucking charges. This was entirely a you thing. What the hell? The case is still moving forward. In a May email to the department, Brock's attorney accused the deputy of false imprisonment and kidnapping. There is now proof Benza manufactured the biting claim upon learning the 7-Eleven video caught him violently assaulting and punching Mr. Brock. Hi. Also, the gamer's plan, thank you for the subscription. I would love to see the department turn a new leaf with this evidence. I would love to see the department crumble. My chief criticism of the LASD over the decades has been the willful blind eye that applies to citizen complaints, no matter what the proof. Let this not be one of them. I can't imagine being in law enforcement with all the stress and dangerous situations they have to deal with, but they also need to follow the law. If they do something overly aggressive or break the law, then that needs to be held accountable. I'm grateful for the police who follow the... And then somebody immediately goes, working in a factory is very stressful, and yet for some reason, factory workers aren't allowed to just go up and randomly attack any person and try to kill them.
Pride 500, welcome to America, the land of the corrupt.
Being a police officer is certainly not the most dangerous occupation in this country. It is ranked only 16th most dangerous to the other 15 career fields, having higher risk of injury or death. People who work in those 15 career fields aren't allowed to have immunity from any laws when they commit crimes either. Hello.
Hello.
How is?
I is good.
You're good?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Sam told me you need one of these.
Oh. Come here. Come here. So they should try being a nurse in a psych ward? Yeah. Oh, there goes my headphones. Beep. That's my ear. That's a dangerous place. Hi, honey. Ugh. How are you?
Just reading.
Just reading? Sounds like a webtoon kind of day. Fair, fair. Said, and I don't need dessert anymore. Too sweet on the screen. Jesus. But that does do it for the entirety of that article. That's all of it. This is one of those things that I want to follow more as things develop for it, but I tend to fall off of this stuff shortly afterwards because I just don't have the stomach for it repeatedly. But we'll see. We'll see. With that said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I know that my reactions to stuff like this is certainly maybe a little more angry than normal. But let me know what your reactions are. Hit the like button if you haven't already, subscribe if you haven't already, and insert end of video tagline here.